people of Africa and the global world at large. Thank you for joining us this day. It is another edition of the program Global Insight on For You Media Africa. Today we want to take a special focus on the role of women in their participation in the global transformation. Of course, the month of March reminds us of the International Day of the Woman that will be commemorated on the 8th of March. But today we want to analyze the place of the woman in ensuring in participating in the global transformation that is taking place across the global world. It should be noted that the world is faced with a drastic global transformation which are affecting spheres of every sphere of the human society, with shifting dynamics of power and changing systems which are challenging, of course, the traditional powers. It can be likened to a global wind of change with a greater scope to address the world's interconnected crisis and redefine new patterns, especially along political, economic, and social lines, patterning international cooperation, the quest to transform existing systems of governance, to fight neo-colonialism in the 21st century, and also to create a new world order continue to occupy the agenda of government around the global world, and even more evident in Africa with the new political and economic revolutions, especially in the Western Central Africa. However, today's program, Global Insight, seeks to analyze the role of women in the times of global changes and their contributions shaping new world dynamics, especially along geopolitical lines. The role of women in global transformation is significant as they bring diverse perspectives, skills, and contributions that are essential for driving a positive change and creating a healthy, a more inclusive and thriving world. Their environment in women's involvement, I beg your pardon, in decision making, advocacy, empowerment, and health initiative plays a crucial role in building resilient and innovative societies in today's ever-evolving global landscape. The questions: how can women now not only survive but thrive in the face of conflict and ultimately contribute to the resolution of these conflicts over time? How can governments, multilateral institutions, NGOs, and even civil society support the protection, empowerment, and the engagement of women towards a safer and more peaceful future of society for mankind? These questions and more we'll analyze in the course of today's insightful program, Global Insider, only on your Pan-African television For You Media Africa. Let me join you. Just to remind us that this is a program that will run for 2 hours with a panel of experts, largely women, to make their voices heard regarding the transformations taking place in the global world or at the international arena. We're looking at multipolarity, we're looking at multilateralism, and of course, where is the place of the African Union taking central stage, of course, with the theme for this year that talks about the desire for inclusion. And of course, it's time to uncover the panel that will give us insightful analysis on our topic of this day. And we are going to Zanzibar. Let's meet Eva BERNHART, who is joining in her capacity as Head of International Relations and Evolution at the Berlin International. Hello to you, Eva. A pleasure having you on For You Media Africa this day.
Pleasure for me to be joining Clarisse. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, good afternoon. As Clarisse mentioned, we're getting close to celebrating the International Women's Day on 8th of March. And from the time that Rosa Luxemburg and Clara Zetkin at the beginning of the last century fought basically their fight for us women, or began to pave the way for us being empowered, the role of the women has changed a lot. In 1969, there was a title in German newspapers, "A Woman as an Ambassador," which was for Eleanor von Puttkamer, became the first female ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany 55 years ago exactly today. We came to the time where gender equality is central to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, a global plan agreed by leaders of all countries to meet the challenges we face. The Sustainable Development Goal 5 calls specifically on gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls. And this is central to the achievement of all the 17 SDGs. The Secretary General himself of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, is committed personally to increasing women's participation in our peace and security work especially. But we will go on there further in our discussion about the women negotiators. First, he started by appointing his deputy, Amina Mohammed, to be a woman. Furthermore, let's mention the last two appointments of head of UN organizations were also women. Celeste Saulo of Argentina became the new Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, not only as a woman, but as a woman scientist, which is also very seldom in the fight of German equality. And Amy Pope became the Director General of the International Organization for Migration. So I'm really looking forward on our journey to embark into the transformative impact of women, their resilience, as you mentioned, and their potential to shape this interconnecting world.
Absolutely, and I want to thank you, of course, for that brilliant introductory statement, Eva. We're looking forward to having a very constructive interaction. To India, we are joining PURNIMA Anand, President of BRICS International Forum. It's a pleasure having you again this time, dear PURNIMA, to continue to understand the stakes in the international arena, and particularly this day we want to look at that place, the role of the woman, be it the African woman or women generally, in partaking in this transformational journey. It's a pleasure having you. Unfortunately, I cannot comprehend you quite well. I will come back subsequently to you, dear PURNIMA, while we're trying to maybe it's for some technical issues, sir. Let's welcome Yulia BERG, political scientist, who is joining us to this day to give insight on this very important topic. Hello to you, dear Yulia. A pleasure having you on Global Insight this day.
Hello, the pleasure is definitely mine.
It's always a pleasure, and looking forward to having this fruitful discussion. You know, women shouldn't be relegated, women shouldn't be left behind when it comes to the interaction or the changes or the dynamics happening in the global world. It's a moment of a paradigm shift. Where is the place of the women? The existing multilateral institutions or international institutions giving the women a greater scope to better contribute their actually their quarter in transforming this world. And also we get back to PURNIMA. If all is okay, we are glad to have you, dear PURNIMA.
Hello, I'm audible now. Sound is okay?
Sure, very audible.
Okay. So happy to see our all colleagues, our very dynamic leaders from all over the world. And your topic today is very touched and very connected to me, because of the whole my journey, I work on women empowerment and women policy making programs from World Bank to New Development Bank to Indian government policies. So it was a long journey, and I saw many transformations from our history, our present, and from future prospects. So first of all, it is important to say that women contribute a lot for inclusive development of the world, and global policies are very important nowadays, that women's participation should be there, because whatever happens, either it is COVID or it is war or any other earthquake or geopolitical disturbances, women is the most effective person in the world who have to face all the challenges, and they have to balance the situation in all circumstances. So it is very important that in decision making, women should arise and their participation should be more as compared to men's. Because now world is changing very fast. We saw that in COVID, women had double pressure in their family units. So they have to work, they have to take care of family, and they have to earn from the home. So this double pressures created new role and importance of the women in the society. Not only because I am from India and I am from the country where women respected as a goddess in our families. But time changed when Mughal time came to our country. Women went inside the homes and they left their all work from the society, and they become, they covered their faces and they live inside the houses. So their social role become limited. As we understand, Indian women are limited, they are soft, they are not speaking. So this kind of, creations happen. But after independence, when Africa was struggling for the independence from colonialism, India had woman Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So you can understand women are empowered and women are very important in India. And it happens because when you feel confident inside you, when you are having responsibility inside you, you have to develop, you have to grow, you have to stand in all circumstances. So this is the basic thing which which make women more aggressive, more participating, and more holistic in the global development. Now, I would like to tell you one important thing, that during wars, who is the most affected person during whole war? Because governments take decisions to send the weapons or to start the war, and armies fight with each other. Women give their sons, women give their men for the war, for the victory, for the safety of country. But nobody knows that what women suffers after the wars, what is the level of pain of the women. So it is very important that in wars, decision making also women should be present. If good women are present, I feel that wars will not happen so frequently as we are observing nowadays. So, so this is the thing. And now, second point is economic development in holistic way. We saw that during last 75 years, all the economic development held by the presence of man, and men were the main policy decision makers. And if you will count, most of the economists are men. In our country, Manmohan Singh, our ex-prime minister, was the main economist who changed the economy of India between 2000 to 2010. So we are following the new prints of the Western policies in our economic development. Here, I would like to say that in Africa, in Asia, women are at low ground working capacity, like in agriculture, in labor, and in domestic work, or in handicraft or small things. They are not at the higher level due to Western policies of the economic model. So now, after education, after empowerment, they are trying to enter into banking system, into politics, into corporate sector, and they played very important role in all spheres, and they succeed. They succeed with their family development as well as their own development, as they also supported the country development, inclusive development. Because if I will remember, Indian privatization of banking happened in the time of Indira Gandhi when she was Prime Minister. And today our economy is stable and India is having soft empowerment for the countries who can give their money in India, and they are getting good result of their investments. So
all right,
it
I
is.
will come back to you subsequently, dear. Sorry if I interjected, but I will come back subsequently. Just to add to what you've said, it's true that the global world, or the global economy has been weighed down by the war, uncertainty, and instability. And this was asserted recently by the World Trade Organization chief, Nigerian Ngozi Iweala. And of course, that is how we want to look at in the course of the program, how we can address some of these challenges affecting the global world and the particular place of the woman in doing this. Let's also head to Tunisia, being joined by Najet ZAMMOURI, who is a distinguished professor and pedagogy consultant, also a human rights activist. Hello to you, Najet, and welcome to the Pan-African Television.
Okay. So firstly, I would like to thank you for the relevance of the topic. Actually, the African woman is a multifaceted figure, endowed with cultural richness, remarkable resilience, and a significant contribution to all aspects of society. She is a vital and indispensable force in the construction and development of the continent. Her role is essential, both in the private and public spheres, and her potential is a driving force for progress and transformation in Africa and even beyond Africa.
Okay, thank you. I will continue this conversation with you, Najet. You talk about, we're looking at particularly the place of the African woman. So in your perspective, how do you think, or how can geopolitical tensions and conflict affect women's security, or first of all, the role of women in global transformation? And in your perspective, what major stakes do you think can be considered, especially from the African perspective?
Those include access to education, healthcare, employment, and equitable economic opportunities for them. Additionally, combating gender discrimination, violence against women, and cultural and societal barriers that limit their full participation in development and decision-making processes are also critical concerns. Recognizing and valuing women's contributions at all levels of society, as well as promoting their leadership and representation in political, economic, and social spheres, are crucial challenges to achieving inclusive and egalitarian global transformation. African women are essential actors in various fields such as the economy, politics, civil society, culture, education, etc. And here are some aspects, for example, of their contribution. First of all, in economy, African women play a significant role in the economy as entrepreneurs, agricultural workers, informal workers, and heads of households, of course. Their efforts contribute significantly to the economic growth and sustainable development of the continent. I can mention some examples as Isabel dos Santos, the Angolan entrepreneur, or Alima Dango, the Nigerian executive director of Dangote Industries Limited, or Maguette White, the Senegalese entrepreneur who has founded several successful businesses. I'm really sorry for the pronunciation of some names. Additionally, there is also Monica Muzanda, a Zambian lawyer and entrepreneur, and Awa Traore, a Malian farmer who has received training and financial support to develop her agriculture businesses. All are involved in initiatives aimed at empowering other rural women in their countries. I should not forget also Leima Gbowi, the Liberian women's rights activist and social entrepreneur who played a crucial role in the peace movement in Liberia. I also mention, of course, Raria Bilgeya, the Tunisian entrepreneur and founder of several technology companies, or Noor Al-Assad, the Egyptian entrepreneur, etc. Despite persistent obstacles, African women are increasingly occupying leadership positions in both the economic and political spheres at both local and national levels. Their presence in political institutions is essential to ensure equitable representation and to promote policies and laws that support gender equality and inclusive development. They are also active in numerous civil society organizations, of course, working on issues such as women's rights, human rights, education, health, environment, and social justice.
Thank you for that. Let's continue the conversation with you, Yulia Berg. Of course, NAJET just underlined that we cannot relegate the place of the woman in the political sphere. And of course, when we're talking about global changes at the international level, we are also looking at it from every dimension. So the question, the first question, which I'm directing to you, and it's some sort of holistic question, the stakes to consider as we want to analyze the role of the women in ensuring change, or in the global changing dynamics happening across the international arena. Yulia, from a political perspective, what are those major stakes that the global world needs to consider as far as the place of women is concerned in redefining or reshaping the new world?
Well, I would like to take this conversation to a bit different dimension that to me is essential when we talk about both the global transformation and the role of women. Because, well, I think that the current transformation we are observing is all about moving to a more fair, let's say, world order, or I would rather say a more fair balance of power, resources, and type of interactions. By that I mean that once different actors at the global arena come out with the ability to make sovereign decisions, we will see less of suppression, less of exploitation, and more of fair trade, more of fair interactions based on actual interest, right? Okay. So the same thing, I suppose, is valid to the gender roles. And those gender roles are not about being a biological woman or being a biological man, but about being conscious about female and male energies. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter, and there are many examples of such, it doesn't matter if someone is a biological woman, but is not demonstrating the female type of a leadership that is more about conservation of resources, that is more, let's say, careful and gentle in terms of decision making, more focused on constructive issues rather than destruction, because again, biologically, females produce human beings, to put it simple, right? So they know the value of that, and they know the value of life and death. They know it at a physical level, which is completely different from anything you might be theoretically and hypothetically thinking about, right? When you physically know what it feels to, you know, produce life, it's taking your understanding to a different level, and it's taking your methods to a different dimension again, because you are much less likely to make a decision that might be harmful for life in general, right? So I think we need to go back to this, and maybe later on in this program, I would also like to elaborate on the ethics that underlie the current gender paradigm. And there is something that, in my understanding, led to a lot of deformations that we have been facing, right? So I think that it's not about even the role of women in the global transformation, but it's about understanding that at the current stage of development of human race and human societies, we need to really reconsider a lot of things, and we need to be asking why and what for and what is the strategic goal. That kind of questions, we need to ask them more. Because a lot of the problems we're seeing, including wars, including destruction, including unfair policies, when you have call it whatever, like the golden billion, the whatever, you know, the international elite whatsoever, and at the same time billions of people suffering from lack of access to water, food, and the very basic items and the very basic needs. It's not about us as the, you know, human race not having enough of resources. It's about being smart in using them. It's about making sure that one group of people is not trying to benefit from another group of people, or to you know, just abuse another group of people in order to get resources that they cannot even consume.
Yeah. And where the problematic lies, and this actually brings us to the next question directed to you, Eva Bernhardt. We're looking at how, given these dynamics, how do you think political power dynamics have actually impacted women's rights and opportunities on a global scale? We are looking at how women can redefine and bring about a balance and fairness, like Yulia underlined. In your own perspective, what do you think or how do political power dynamics impact women's rights and opportunities in making their voices heard on global issues?
Mm-hmm. Geopolitical power dynamics play a significant role in shaping women's rights and opportunities on a global scale. There are several ways in which these dynamics impact women. First, I will pinpoint again the point that Yulia mentioned, access to resources. The geopolitical power imbalances affect the distribution of resources, and this is very important for women. Because women in regions experiencing conflict or political instability face challenges in accessing basic necessities such as food, water, healthcare, limiting their opportunities for growth and development. And this thrives. This just motivates them to guard the resources, the natural resources, and to really take care of how they use them, because they have to take care of the family. The conflict and displacement, we see it in regions facing geopolitical conflicts, that it's often women that suffer. We have seen gender-based violence just from the simple fact that the army is consisting of men, and we have a lot of gender-based violence like rapes and different other things, displacement, disruptions of social structures. Geopolitical power influences also the political landscape in decision-making bodies. I'm in Zanzibar, which is part of United Republic of Tanzania. And
Yeah.
East Africa, even though West Africa had the first woman president, but now East Africa is definitely advancing in women having 2 women presidents, the Ethiopian president, Sahle-Work Zedwe, and the Tanzanian president, Madam Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan. So Eastern Africa shows the way that it can be possible that women are president and women are really holding very high political functions. I think that it really shows basically how the way should be on the political arena. And both Ethiopia and Tanzania are economically very successful in global South. So we can see that women are, let's say, stabilizing additionally their countries, which comes to the other way these dynamics are shaped, the economic impact. Women, if women experience, let's say, job losses or wage disparities, and like they're facing different entrepreneurial challenges, this may lead to economical instability. The cultural and social norms are also guarded by women. And they're like, let's say, a keeper and a pillar of the family, a keeper of the pillar of the culture, and all international programs, development programs, they're having women in focus. They have, all of them have gender focus, so that they have to be, as I mentioned before, there has to be a gender parity of 50% inclusion of women in all the programs, the policies. So we can see how important the role of women is here.
And this is what is vital, because some pundits have opined that women are the good factors or stakeholders or actors who are actually, if they can leverage on the available scope, will provide a good and sustainable solution to many of the problems facing the global world, ranging from political problems and like you've applauded, Eva, the representation of women in the political life of their countries. I think this is going a long way to changing narratives, especially across the African continent so far. We continue with you, dear Purnima. Listening to the introductory statements coming from all the other speakers, and you as the president of the BRICS International Forum, and in your introductory statement, you underlined that you have been working passionately with women to redefining their position, especially in the interconnected issues of the global world. We mentioned COVID-19, now it's climate change, and of course war and instability that has brought about uncertainty even in the economic lives of a country. So as this major stakeholder, former stakeholder of the World Bank, what do you think are the major stakes or parameters that we need to actually explore in today's changing world to redefine the place of women, helping in having this society where we talk of fairness, balance, of power and resources, without one nation being subjugated to some sort of exploitation, as underlined earlier by Yulia Bird.
Thank you, Clarisse. Your core point is that how women can come into central decision-making issues, because as we can say that women is decisions are empathetic, very collaborative, and with the concessionaire. And this is required to develop the natural holistic approach. Okay, so now in modern world, because world is changing very fast, digitalization is happening, and we are observing that world is dividing very fast. rich people are becoming richer and poor people are becoming poor. So between this, women are the key human resource which have to take decision and which have to sustain their families, their nearby environment, and their nearby people. So first of all, the main key aspect is people-to-people participation and development of human-centric resources, where human need the basic things. Food security, nowadays, some governments are very developed, some developed government and countries are underdeveloping, and some countries are very poor stage in Africa, in Asia, and even in our country, we are facing two types of position. We are very rich one side, and another side we are having tribal belt and very poor people. To make balance, we need human-centric development. We need to think first about the human being, about person, about his happiness, about his basic needs. So requirement is that we should not think about international, global, and economy, dollar economy or BRICS economy. We need to think how last person at the zero ground can be developed. This is the need of the hour, because we are in the stage of digitalization. Due to digitalization, we can reach to everyone, and due to digitalization, we can get all the information from all corners. And if there is any successful model, it can be repeated in all corners. So we need good intention. We need good network. We need good opportunities to do it. So first of all, because as a BRICS president and in BRICS economies I am working, and now we know that power is shifting from western side to eastern side, and African and Asian countries are uniting too much, and they are thinking all the time how they should develop future policies for their sustainable development without Western models. So this is very important nowadays, that how we can take all empathetic decisions, which is very important. And as a future strategies, in all countries need to think that we should provide food security, social security, and energy security. And above all, traditional and civilization need to be sustained, because sovereignty of the country, sovereignty of the tradition is very important. We need to take care of our tradition and civilization also. We cannot change, we cannot create one model of the global system like Western model or Western music or Western education. We need to sustain our tradition and civilization also. So human-centric development is very important, and this is my today from your channel. I would like to expand that all policymakers and especially women do human-centric development because she raises her family unit. First, she take care of her children, her family, then she think about the nearby system or international system. So if woman is in the decision making, that means she is thinking about human-centric development, empathetic decisions. So this is important, and I would like to say that if everybody will get the prosperity, then earth will be peaceful, and we need peaceful life on earth. And we are having enough resources. We need to distribute equally. We need to distribute our natural resources carefully for the development of all people, not for the specific people. Then we will get very good peaceful environment and harmony in our world. And I think nowadays, due to digitalization and information technologies, we can make such system where all people can get their rights, they can get all needful things, food, energy, everything. We have enough resources, but equal distribution is required, and good intention is required. And woman is the person woman is the resource who can take right decision on equal distribution and equal development. Thank you.
Thank you for that elaborate analysis on the place of women in decision and making positions. I think your interaction has made me to come swiftly to you, Yulia. You know, talking about inclusiveness, and I already underlined that the theme for this day is already bent on desire inclusion. So while talking about sustainability, inclusiveness, and it brings us to the ideology of multilateralism. So now, how can women stakeholders in the global world address attacks against multilateralism?
Multilateralism in the current shape or form implies that there are different actors realizing their sovereign role, coming to the international arena, having something to offer on the one hand, and having some interest, right? So that exchange underlies the global trade and underlies the system of international relations that we're looking at when we're analyzing the theory and possible practices of multilateralism. So at the moment, the concept is non-existent in that shape and form, right? So we see some limited examples, but we're just in the process of transformation towards that model. And I think that it is essential to analyze again, not just the role of women, but let's say the balance of those powers or energies, male and female, and to see the strengths, the weaknesses, like in regular SWOT analysis, the opportunities and the threats that both imply, right? And this has to be understood and has to be brought to the conscious area by all of the participants of the process. Eva was elaborating on female leadership in politics, and if we look at the recent history, we don't see too many examples of female leadership, but if we look at some historical background on different continents, we see a lot of females taking up responsibility for entire, countries and empires, and quite a lot of, queens and empresses on the African continent, on the European continent, regardless of the title, they were taking responsibility for destinies of, tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people, and they were being quite effective in what they were doing, right? So the current transformation, as Purnima has rightfully mentioned, has a lot to do with digitalization and access to communication, access to information, generally speaking, ability to exchange messages in a very fast way. So that opens up the database of all of the knowledge produced by human beings throughout the centuries, right? So at the moment, not using those opportunities, is quite, let's say, irrational, because having all those communication opportunities, all those different approaches that can be used to processing the data, making conclusions, doing analysis in order to choose optimal ways and avoid at least the most typical mistakes, brings governance as well to a completely different level. And now we have the equipment and software that is capable of processing big data. So when we try to make a decision, we can use the artificial intelligence to run through different scenarios, to run through different options, and give us a chance not to make those mistakes in practice, right? So I think at the moment, the the environment that we're dealing with and the digital environment that we're dealing with is taking us to the necessity to level up and to upgrade ourselves in order to match the opportunities that we have in different areas. So here I think there are much more chances for cooperation and collaboration and less need to jump into competition. And typically when we talk about female and male approach, that's one of the key differences. Of course, I'm not trying to say that 100% of women are focused on cooperation and 100% of men are competitive, and in different situations you need to demonstrate different traits, right? But the point that I'm making here is that even using the software, the digital methods, and the AI, big data processing, there are more opportunities for cooperation because you can run scenarios through, and you do not have to look at different situations at the international arena in international relations as a zero-sum game. So we need to understand, I suppose, or we can just, open up to the fact that gives us opportunities on the one hand, but on the other hand, responsibility to upgrade our own selves and upgrade our thinking to match even the technical and digital capacities that are already in our hands.
Yeah. Very imperative. It's about ensuring sustainability. It's about ensuring growth and involving in international cooperation, which is beneficial. Eva, some time ago, while actually analyzing this same topic, especially the place of women in promoting multilateralism, you said on the line that it is vital to think about international cooperation, think about multilateralism, foreign policies redefined, and it's also the process of shaping new perspectives and global connectivity. So now, how do you think women stakeholders and together with the other stakeholders can ensure the sustainability, take this sustainability in ensuring socially equitable and environmentally friendly transformation of economics in the global
world? Well, for me, this is, I agree with what Yulia said on multilateralism, but I also, out of my personal experience, I am well aware that many times when men are in the forefront, let's say now in the COP in Dubai, I know that the team of women behind organizing this whole COP, and I know personally a few of them, so they were real, for me, they are real multilateralists, and they're really like what Julia said. I mean, multilateralism is different actors basically negotiating on the same topic and realizing their sovereign role and having some interest, but still trying to make a common decision, basically, on international relation. This time it was about climate change, and it was facing the challenges of climate change, as Purnima has mentioned, the food, energy, and water security that are really like, we will probably go on further on the security question and women's role in peace and collaboration. As you said, women's role in keeping the sustainability, again, I will go back to the resource allocation and to the guardians and to the access to natural resources, and guarding natural resources and finding out nature-based solutions in order to fight the triple planetary crisis, environment, climate change, and chemicals. Women have crucial role in finding sustainability solutions, basically. As we mentioned before, traditionally, we are the guardians of the natural resources in order for the families to prosper and to thrive and survive. That's why for us it is important that we, let's say, women strive for clean cooking solutions in Africa or in the global south. Coal is again used, but another alternative is biogas. Let's say biogas is made out of this out of the whole organic waste. It's a very simple technology to produce biogas and to cook with clean natural biogas, to have clean cooking solutions using the solar energy. So basically, we as women, as I said, we are really guarding the sustainability of natural resources and keeping this social equity.
Yeah, about guiding the sustainability of natural resources, keeping the social equity. It brings us now to the challenges that we face, or women who face, when trying to put the resources or guide the resources together. The question directing now to NAJET, joining from Tunisia, the human rights activist. She's actually commenting on how maybe geopolitical consideration are shaping international development policies and actually impacting women in developing countries. How can we guard these natural resources and ensure that we're not being trapped or entrapped along these the geopolitical competition? And that is why NAJET is the question. NAJET is, in what ways do these geopolitical considerations shape international development policies and impact women in developing countries particularly? NAJET, the question is directed to you.
Geopolitical tensions and conflicts can have devastating consequences on the well-being of women.
We can't comprehend
of their
security,
their access to humanitarian aid, particularly in conflict zones. Four major reasons can be cited that hinder the flourishing and advancement of women.
Things regarding
First,
the question directed
sexual and gender-based violence.
On how, in other, with Eva saying that there is need to ensure this sustainability and women being greater actors in guarding these natural resources. In what ways do you think geopolitical consideration actually shape international development policies and impacts women in developing countries?
Can you say your question in keywords, because it was very long and I was in impression that...
in what ways do geopolitical considerations shape international policies, development policies, and impact women, especially in the developing world?
Yes. So,
please, can you your mic is muted, please. Okay.
How women are getting impact on international policies, right? So women's, nowadays, we said that world is uniting and decisions taken in the G20 or Davos conference or in international summits. So all countries participate in and internationally decisions taken place. And especially impact is Western impact. And this decision is taken by the Western countries, because whatever they need, they include their intentions in those international conferences, and whole world have to follow it. But now, from another side, if we see in Western world, in Asian countries, African countries, Latin American countries, these countries are unsatisfied because they did not get equal space for their development in the international arena. Always Western countries take more space more decision-making powers, and more natural resources uses. Now, all after Copenhagen summit, developed countries are taking decision that they will not use carbon generated products, and they will not spoil their lands and their natural resources. But if this decision is taken by for all countries, then how underdeveloping countries will come in the developed stage? So every decision cannot be followed by all countries, because every country is having different development stages. So this need to be addressed properly, because all impact come on women, because women is the key resource of all units. Either it is family, either it is municipality government, or it is central government, or it is regional government, or it is international conferences system. So women role is really important, and always it comes, responsibilities comes on the shoulder of women. So it is very important impact, whatever international decisions happens for the development, it's important that women should be present in all those decisions, and this need to be understand that this impacts will go to the final small unit where women have to handle the and manage the issues. So this is my observation and analysis, that international multipolar world, or whatever we say, new colonial system, these all impacts are very very important on our development. And now we are working on BRICS economies. Now you can see that earlier we were 5 countries, now it is 11 countries, and recently Egypt and UAE signed very big 35 billion deal. It will give really new shape to world economy as well as BRICS economy. So these are the new impacts of economies in our system, in our families. So we have to be careful, because due to digitalization, we are taking very fast decisions and we are interacting very fast. But for sustainable development, we have to take moderate decisions and need to understand the impacts also. So your question is very important. Impacts need to be observed properly. Sure. Thank you.
Indeed, impacts needs to be observed properly. Getting the viewpoint of NAJET on the same question, in what ways geopolitical considerations shape international development policies and also impact women, particularly in the developing world.
Geopolitical tensions and conflicts can have devastating consequences on the well-being of women, of their security, their access to humanitarian aid, particularly in conflict zones. Four major reasons can be cited that hinder the flourishing and advancement of women. First, sexual and gender-based violence. Women are often victims of sexual violence, including rape, domestic violence, sexual slavery, during times of conflict. Armed groups may use sexual violence as a weapon of war to intimidate or humiliate and terrorize civilian populations, especially women. These atrocities result in deep physical and psychological trauma for women and compromise their personal security. 2. Forced displacement. Conflicts often result in massive population displacement, with women and children constituting a significant proportion of displaced persons. These forced displacements expose women to increased risks of violence, exploitation, human trafficking. Additionally, displaced women may be separated from their families or lost access to healthcare, education, and can face precarious living conditions in refugee camps or displacement areas. The third is the restricted access to humanitarian aid. The geopolitical tensions and conflicts can impede humanitarian organizations' access to affected populations, notably due to security restrictions, blockades, roadblocks, and other logistical obstacles. Consequently, women and girls may have limited or even non-existent access to essential services such as healthcare, education, clean water, food, and shelter. Women attempting to access humanitarian aid may also be exposed to risks of violence and exploitation. The fourth is the weakening of social support systems. Conflicts often disrupt existing social support systems, including healthcare services and social protection networks. This can make women more vulnerable to poverty or malnutrition and illness and maternal and infant deaths. Moreover, conflicts can destroy critical civilian infrastructure such as hospitals, schools, water supply systems, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis and women's living conditions.
Indeed, women's living conditions are just to remind our televiewers joining us that this is Global Insight on For You Media Africa, and today we are looking at the pivotal role that the women in the global world can play in defining their own perspectives as far as the changing dynamics are concerned, especially along economic, social, cultural, and also political lines. Talking about the crisis faced by women, we will not only focus on just the political or the social aspect of the role of the women, Yulia. Here, when we talk women, we look at them as a vital economic force. And if we are looking at what some of the changes which have occurred in the global world has actually hijacked the economies of nations, especially across Africa. We're talking about the economic crisis and the effects being felt by the global world at large, and of course we patterning the sanctions patterning from the war, the Russian-Ukraine crisis, and other uncertainties across the global world, which have attacked the economies of nations. So the question I'll be directing to you is, how can women's entrepreneurship and participation in the workforce drive the innovation and competitiveness on a global landscape to redefine maybe to address the challenges that the world is facing right now? You know, women are great economic actors, and coming to Africa, it's often said that women occupy about 75% of the informal sector. So how can women's entrepreneurship and participation in the workforce drive innovation and competitiveness on a global scale?
Well, I think that a lot of the success in terms of female entrepreneurship depends on the social environment and social ethics that are applied in a specific society, right? So if we look at different examples, we can see that, for instance, in Africa, there are quite a lot of working women, females that do manage to raise children and be active in work at the same time. But for the most part, they're not occupying leadership positions, because there is sort of a glass ceiling on the one hand, and maybe a bit less of determination or desire for competitiveness that females wish. At the same time, if we look at the United States, I think during the last century, there has been quite a lot of changes in terms of understanding of the role of the women. And after the World War II in the 50s and 60s, and this is well reflected in different kinds of films and movies and episodes from that time, that was the time of the baby boom, and the time that was quite let's say, successful for the United States in terms of the economy. So the image that was being promoted as a housewife that takes care of the house and the children, and big families with many children are present there. And that very house with the white picket fence and cars and all the home appliances. So that was the image of a perfect family that was being promoted. Now, what happened next was kind of a sexual revolution as well, when females were more active in choosing or changing partners, and divorce was already not something socially unacceptable, right? And of course, that pushed females to the labor market, or that definitely motivated them for building their own career. So here we should always look at the complex, right? We should always try to use a holistic approach. So we can see those changes in the social perception of the role of female being quite significant. If we'll analyze, for instance, the situation in the United States throughout the last 5 or 6 or 7 decades, right? When role of a female as a housewife has shifted to the role of an autonomous individual making own decisions and choosing partners that they prefer as life partners, rather than suppliers and the ones just ensuring financial stability of the family. So that has a lot to do with that. But I would also like to make another point, and I think it's important to consider the overall, let's say, perception and social ethics, right? Because at the moment, the role, for instance, of Christianity in the way we perceive the role models in terms of male and female, and the family model is quite significant globally. So it doesn't have to do just with the let's say Europe and the United States, but also quite a lot of countries that Christianity was brought to later on. And so the role model of male-female interaction that emanates from the Christian ethics is Adam and Eve. And here it's also an interesting question, or some food for thought that I would like to provide, because the ones reading the Bible carefully would notice that at the very beginning of Genesis, it says that God created human beings, male and female, he created them. And it means that they were created from the same soil and created equal. So this is much better elaborated on in some other, let's say, religions, and also in Judaism and Torah. You would find a lot more information on that very first female, whose name was Lilith. So at some point she was demonized. You can also see a lot of myths about her in Sumer culture, and sometimes she would be portrayed as a demon goddess. But the key point here is that when we look at Adam and Eve, Eve is always disadvantaged because she was made of Adam's rib, and so that creates a system where they are not, male and female are not equal. But even in the Bible itself, there are interesting points to look at in order to ask that question again. And the reason why I'm focusing your attention on this point is that this very model underlies the perception that billions of people globally have, at least the ones that are being either directly exposed to Christianity or impacted by that. And this is being promoted. So I believe that the role of females as well as housewives, as someone who's supposed to be serving to a man, as someone who's quite subsequent to a man, can change when we rethink and reanalyze the very ethical foundations. And when we look at many traditional cultures and, you know, some of the tribal cultures in Africa, when we look at Indian goddesses that are, you know, where you can see plenty of them with different, let's say, areas of responsibility and different characters and everything else, we see a much bigger variety than the Christian culture shows us, because in the Bible you see two main, especially, well, Genesis has a bit more of that, but Jesus Christ and on is two female characters, Mother Mary, the Virgin Mother of Jesus Christ, the 100% saint and pure female, and the other Mary, who was very different from that. You only see two role models that represent the very opposite sides of the spectrum, right? You don't see as many characters as are represented, for instance, in Indian mythology or Greek mythology or in Roman mythology. And I think it's also important to show different kinds of characters, and that empowers women a lot to see different role models, to see different areas of responsibilities or characters that they can look at in terms of empowering their own spirit that can push them either to you know, to make a career in business, or to take care of the family, or to become, I don't know, scientists or teachers or healers, doctors, whatsoever else. So the more of the role models we have in our very basic ethical systems, the more of options we can see. And since we're all, you know, well, or at least we would want, I suppose, to see human beings being equal in terms of opportunities, but we're still different in terms of characters, in terms of strengths and weaknesses. You know, some would prefer diving into schemes and mathematics, others would prefer making money, and, you know, some other groups would prefer focusing on creating beauty, right, or something else. So having a variety of role models, I think, is essential to find the best, let's say, also entrepreneurship model or financial model, or find what you're good at and trying to get prosperous on that in the optimal way possible.
Indeed, very imperative in the optimal way possible, trying to define your capacity and leverage the available scope to be able to contribute your quota to the development of the global world. We are talking about a world that has been challenged by wars, a world that has been challenged by economic crisis, and we are looking at a world that is facing a lot of uncertainty. Either let's look at the place of the woman. We know desiring inclusion, but not in areas that are not actually impactful. We have the world that needs peace, that needs a resolution to the conflicts there. In the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, we have crisis. In you know, in the Central Africa, we have crisis. Now, women are known to have a higher capacity or propensity to ensure peace and development. The global world is actually in turmoil, you can attest. So do you think the existing international institutions have provided women with the better scope to leverage on and contribute their own initiatives in bringing about a peaceful society for mankind?
Thank you, Clarisse. I don't think so. Okay, let me start where I started before. I started before that the Secretary General of the UN is committed to increasing women's participation in the peace and security work. Because women negotiators increase the chances of sustainable peace, and women peacekeepers decrease the chances of sexual exploitation and abuse. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. In the Security Council, there is no woman. There is no, at least no famous women negotiator that are really like negotiating the peace agreements. All we see is men. So basically on the peace agenda, I think that women are completely underrepresented, and it is completely wrong. Because I think, I was just, because I am a multilateralist and I evaluate a lot of projects from the United Nations, I just evaluated a project called very interesting aspect on climate change and security. Climate change on the nexus between climate change, peace, and security. So we had a pilot project in Sudan. This was the project implemented by the United Nations Environment Program, basically how to make this nexus, how to use climate change as a multiplier in the triple planetary crisis, because it is definitely a reason for insecurity, for migration, for resource scarcity. And we had a pilot project in Sudan where there was a water conflict over on the border with Chad in northern Darfur. It was a water conflict between pastoralists who were men and farmers who were women. And women were the main force that changed this, basically that brought this whole social cohesion and that made the negotiations with the pastoralists. And they were so happy at the end that they kind of like made a roadmap how to use the natural resources, how to use the waters. They both needed. They needed, one needed for farming, for the food production, and also the others for the pastoralists, for the animal production. So basically, yes, this happened in Sudan. This conflict was solved. Then in Nepal, it was a pilot project about the flooding. So this was the project about droughts, about one detrimental climate change effect, droughts, and another one was floods in Nepal. I was in September because in Sudan I couldn't make a mission, so I couldn't see this. I had to do like a remote mission because of the war state, unfortunately. And in Nepal, I was present at the southern west border with India, in Nepal. And here we had, in the Karnali River Basin, we had cases of flooding, where women also played a crucial role, of course, together with men, to gather all the family members and all the neighbors and spread the word to go to safe shelter once there was an early warning about the flooding. So basically, here we see on a local level how social cohesion and how peace negotiations can really be successful, done through women. At the moment, unfortunately, women are way too less represented. I am kind of like convinced that the crisis that the world faces at the moment, Russia, Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, the crisis in Yemen, a lot of world crises, women are more vulnerable, but at the same time more resilient. And many times they're more powerful and resilient than men, as Purnima was saying at the beginning. So women are really like gatekeepers. They're keepers of peace negotiation. So they really can negotiate about peace. So I think that this role still needs to be developed of women in peace negotiations and keeping the peace security in the world.
which is very imperative. And to do this, there is need to close the discrepancies or the gaps which exist between men and women for the common good of mankind. Coming back to you, Purnima and Nan, and in the same perspective, you've actually underlined, but now we want to look at those specific initiatives, being the president of BRICS International Forum and being really active in seeing that women play a pivotal role in transforming, as they have earned the title of gatekeepers or peacekeepers. So do you have any specific initiative or project related to the promoting the role of women in the global fight against neo-colonialism, which is what is happening in the contemporary society, and also advocating for a multi-polar world, understanding the concepts in the ever-changing world, and of course making their voices heard with your help?
So it is good and important question, women's role in peacekeeping. So this is very understandable that who wants peace in this world? First, women's, because if there is a world peace, keep world is in peaceful environment, then women's are the most happiest people because they are having comfortable zone to develop their families, children's, and their nearby environments. So, as you mentioned one word, new colonialism. This is very important aspect of modern society. Imperialism passed and colonialism come when they garrison the territories and rule the governments. This was the past system, and India passed through a very long time under the colonialism system, and Africa also, and many countries suffered a lot, and many peacekeeping human beings lost their lives. Billions of people lost their lives during colonial time or imperialism time. Then we come to new colonialism, and now all countries for new world order, especially Western side is in NATO countries, they are having very high level of weapon companies, and they need to nourish these weapon companies. So NATO have responsibility to nourish these companies for the satisfaction of their society, for the economic model of their governments. So they have to sustain this weapon industry. And if weapon industry is sustaining, how peace will come? If weapon industry is producing weapons, they need to be used. And how they will use? They need some conflicts at borders. They need conflicts inside our religious system, in our structure. So this kind of conflicts develop by the Western system or the weapon industry. So we need to understand that what new colonialism is doing in our countries, in developing countries. We know NGO is the very soft corner, and it is a soft power of the development in any country. And World Bank, IMF, and many Western countries are giving funds for the development. It sounds very good. I work in the World Bank and I saw many models, how poverty alleviation programs can be done, how we can make good homes for the poor people, how we can give good education to the children in poor country, how we can utilize the resources for water purity, and we can develop the water resource systems by nature. So many models I observed, I worked, and I know the Western policies. But point is that everything is not suitable for everybody. Suppose we are talking about the development of mountain women and desert women. There is a lot of difference. We have to give them different resources. Mountain women having different problems, desert women or ocean women having different problems. And they need separate resources, separate time of the development. And if we will make one policy from the international system and we will implement this policy, then we will lose the peace of our zero ground people, our tribal people, our poor people, our natural people who are living with the natural resources. Like sea people, they are depending on fish business, fishing business. They do fishing, they collect the fish from the sea and they sail and they are living on that economy. This is very simple life for them. But if we will say, no, this sea area is now under the NATO forces, you cannot come to the sea area, you cannot take the fish, then how these people will get their sustainability? Or if we will make some shipping area, shipping yards are coming and we are doing something big things, big oil resources or oil tankers are coming, we are replacing the people from that area. How these people will sustain? So peace will come when we will leave the people with their natural resources. Again, I would say that we should take care of the human-centric development, not international development. One policy cannot give good environment of growth to everybody. So, and women is the very important key force. They can drive peace around them. They can take decision at the highest level because as Eva said and Yulia also mentioned, that when high-level negotiations happen for the peacekeeping or peace programs, higher-level women are not present there. Or if they are present, they are just fulfilling the board number. Okay, so there should be a strong woman who can take empathetic decisions. Emotion should be cared because human emotion power is also very important. And this need to be cared at the highest level, that how these policies for peacekeeping will impact the last person. So important is that women role is very important and women's are the main key resource of the peacekeeping in the society. They are the resource to keep harmony in the society. And especially when there is a disasters, when there is economic declines in the country, when some geographical changes happens, only women can keep their families in peace by doing some small work, handicraft work, or some stitching work, or some local management they can do. So women can take decision in all disaster time, in all difficult time, and in all circumstances. So need to be support women. That's why we are always repeating that strong women should be in the higher end in the international policy decisions so that they can understand the last need of the women. So these decisions are important for the world peace, for the sovereignty of the countries. Thank you.
It's about the sovereignty of nations in every dimension, and with in line with your intervention, actually dive still to the representation of women and looking at the decision-making positions, and if actually these positions are positions that can give them a greater voice in the problems affecting the global world. And this question is directed to NAJET. How can we ensure that there is equal representation and empowerment of women in decision-making positions around the global world? If women are identified as a pool of talent already with soft skills that can bring some practical solutions to the be it social problems, political, and even economic problems affecting the global world. So how can we ensure that they have this equal representative and empowerment of women in decision-making positions around the global world? NAJET.
indeed, assuring equal representation and empowerment of African women, especially in decision-making positions worldwide, requires a holistic and concerted approach involving multiple levels of action. Here are some key measures that could be taken. One, investing in the education of African women and providing them with access to quality training in various fields is essential to strengthen their skills and confidence. This will enable them to better compete with decision-making positions. Two, identifying and eliminating institutional barriers that limit the participation of African women in decision-making, such as discriminatory laws, restrictive cultural practices, and systemic biases. Three, implementing specific policies and measures to promote gender parity in decision-making bodies, such as gender quotas or and incentives of businesses and governments, and awareness campaigns. Moreover, providing financial and technical support to initiatives led by African women, including businesses, civil society organizations, and political initiatives to strengthen their capacity to access and excel in decision-making position. Five, it's encouraging and supporting the leadership of African women by offering mentoring or networking and professional development opportunities, as well as inspiring role models. Six, raising awareness and mobilizing communities, media, for example, and political actors on the importance of equitable representation of African women in decision-making positions, highlighting the benefits of diversity and inclusion. The seventh and the last is establishing accountability. Very important, the accountability. So establishing accountability mechanisms to ensure the effective implementation of policies and programs aimed at promoting equal representation and empowerment of African women in a decision-making position.
Most definitely, NAJET, African women in decision-making processes. It's about diversity, it's about inclusion. And of course, while talking about the scope for African women and the other women in the global arena, Yulia, I want us to look at this. It's somehow, maybe some people may consider it to be minimal, but I think it's a call for concern. PURNIMA, Eva, Yusuf, and NAJET have actually advanced some insightful deliberations or discourses regarding this very important topic, the role of women in redefining perspectives in the global world. But today we want to see how intentional these women are. It's about, NAJET just talked about diversity, inclusion, and of course, looking at the cultural lines. And you, Yulia, and on the line, of course, taking us to the Bible, the place of the woman, and whatsoever. So now, do you think that women are already conscious of the fact that they are good pillars or positive pillars for change? Given that when it comes to putting their voices heard on global issues, it becomes very timid, especially in some parts of the developing countries. How can we address this? Because it's actually a challenge that a lady will be with full potential that can bring a solution to a major problem facing the global world, yet they don't actually make good use of the scope available for them. How can we address this issue?
Well, you see that unfortunately there is no clear and linear answer to this question because the situation is very different from country to country, right? In some countries, you still have a lot of gender-based violence, and I think Eva was referring to different kinds of cases and also the efforts of international organizations to provide basic security, right? And this is an issue. In many countries, gender-based violence is a huge issue. And there was even some research that I came across that linked the accessibility and amount of such a simple thing as public restrooms and bathrooms with gender-based violence. And it is an issue, as far as I know, in some regions of India, in Nigeria, because not having access to such a basic infrastructure would make especially girls and teenagers use whatever, open field, which poses certain risks, right? So sorry to mention such a delicate topic, but we need to start from the basics. We really do need to start from the very basics. And first, ensure basic security, ensure the very basic needs so that females would be able to think further and focus on learning, focus on school, on their studies, instead of thinking where and how to use the bathroom. Well, sorry to say, but I mean, this is life, and not having the basics would not allow to develop further. Then you see some examples of countries, let's say in the Soviet Union, there was quite a lot of access of females to leadership positions, and there was quite an active participation in public social political life. But it was not just simply because they wanted to and they were offered to. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that millions of men were killed during the World War II, and women had to occupy those positions, and women had to raise their children without fathers and provide and do everything at once. So on the one hand, it led to some good statistics in terms of, access to different kinds of positions and different kinds of professions and job opportunities. But you cannot really say that it's a nice recipe to use, because they just simply had to take up a niche that became empty after millions of people were gone, right? So there is no kind of linear scenario that one could follow, but it's important to start from the very basic steps, and first to make sure that there is awareness that, the way the children are being raised in families, the way that they are being educated in schools, teaches them to demonstrate respect to both genders, teaches them the proper gender, let's say, roles and everything, explains the, let's say, biological and subsequent psychological differences between males and females, because there are some, and we cannot deny that, even though in the modern day societies the gender roles are not as simple as they used to be when you had, for instance, societies dealing with agriculture, right? So the way of living defines quite a lot in terms of gender roles. If you have, let's say, men going out to hunt, like, centuries ago, or in some societies, then it means that females stay at home and they take care of whatever the house, right, and the family. If you have an agricultural society, that would probably imply that you would have a lot of children to be involved in farming and whatsoever else. But in modern day urban societies, it's different. And if women take up the role of a provider as well, you shouldn't expect them to be caring about the families and the houses that much. That means that you need a certain kind of infrastructure, like kindergartens, like, babysitters and whatsoever, to allow females to make career, because this is, well, essential, right, in order to organize the day in a way in which you can get involved into entrepreneurship and economic processes. So this has to have a holistic approach, I suppose, and also it has to be set clear, like within the family itself, and expectations should be regulated, because if a female demonstrates desire to be active in entrepreneurship, you just cannot expect her to do, you know, all of the house chores and everything. So this has to be arranged in a different way. If a female chooses to focus on the family and raising children or giving care, that's a different scenario. So here you need to look at the situation in a specific family, in a specific society. But what is super basic is that information should be delivered on how to deal with simple issues, and unless we overcome the issues of gender-based violence, various kinds of sexual, physical, verbal abuse, and everything else, we cannot really talk about further stages and levels, because providing basic security and basic respect is key. So for that reason, introducing subjects that deal with emotional intellect, with basic, again, you know, respect and basic human values into schools, teaching both boys and girls how to interact with each other in a respectful way is essential. And going back to the very same issues at every stage of life is also very important. So I think that education and educational programs that include those values and allow for open and clear conversations regarding this, regarding personal boundaries, regarding respect, regarding the fact that people can choose different options and that they cannot be deprived of that, and that every choice is to be respectful, is to be respected. It's very important also because this you know, gender and like female role agenda puts a lot of pressure on women, right? Because they are in many cases pressured to be everything at once, which is impossible. To be a successful businesswoman, to be a beautiful lady, to be, you know, a caregiver, this and that and everything, and all, you know, within the framework of one single day. But this is impossible, and it creates, you know, a crazy pressure because it starts looking like you have to do this, and also go to the gym, and also do that, and cook well, and, you know, clean everything and whatsoever. So we need to balance it up, and I think the key point here is just to promote the idea of taking the responsibility of own choices, decisions, and choosing own paths and being sure about it. Like, okay, fine, I want to be a scientist, and it might take up some time that I could have dedicated to something else. Maybe it's not going to be bringing so much money. Maybe it would mean that I would dive into my scientific work and have less time for family. But this is what I was born for, right? Or whatsoever a person believes. So I think it's key to, again, show different role models, show different ways of being successful. Would it be just, you know, having children, or making money, or making progress in science, or whatever else, and to start that kind of education from early age.
Okay, thank you so much, dear Yulia. We have just 8 minutes to be together, but then it's still time for us to advance constructive ideas that will redefine and bring about change. The goal is to see that we bring a positive change to whatsoever is happening to every sphere of the society. With you, Eva, it's about defining policies, as Yulia said. So being an international relations expert, and also being aware of the connectedness of the world, you underlined the work of the aspiration of the United Nations Chief in ensuring a sustainability and inclusiveness. So the question is, how does the representation now of women in leadership position impact foreign policies and international relations that will actually work positively towards enhancing the scope or the position of women in at the global stage?
At the moment, the representation is definitely not enough. I think that we should work, the world should work, I mean, every country separately, of course, it is on a different stage of including women, but definitely they should be. I think gender equality and gender parity can be really reached through laws, through minimum presentation. And I think that policies should be made in order to basically fortify this role of the women into having power, into being peace negotiators. Yes, so this definitely should be done through policies. As it was said before, also, we should establish accountability mechanisms to ensure the sustainability of impact for diversity and inclusion of women and gender parity in every aspect of human society in existence. And this is actually what I do as an evaluator. I check if there is equal gender participation, like as I said, in the projects. If we're trying to, the projects are trying to build a 50-50 participation, but there are, let's say, just segments of society and sectors where women, as Purnima mentioned before, in the blue economy, in fisheries, you cannot, women are typical fish traders. They're, let's say, drying fish. I had a project on Lake Victoria. It was very difficult to really include fully, because they're not fishermen. They're not like the main actors of the fisheries chain. They're not holding it. So basically, there are some traditional roles, like in the military, in some engineering, some scientists, that will be held by men furthermore. But women should be included. And the happy news is that I'm seeing in the evaluation that I do, and the gender parity is more and more present. If the projects cannot reach 50-50, let's say, I don't know, of trained participants, they are still holding it to 30-40%. So I trust that it will be that we have a brighter future of inclusion of women.
Indeed, it's about a brighter future of inclusion. Of course, I think it's time for us to draw the curtains into the program. But then I want to appreciate you, ladies, for your insightful analysis on our topic for discussion. Thus, looking forward to seeing that it goes a long way to create impact and bring the voices of women, especially at the political level, the economic level, changing dynamics. Women are a driving force in bringing about the sustainability, in peace, conflict resolution, in boosting economic development, and of course, in the new world, let women have a say, because the world is going to be a better place. I appreciate all your interactions, and also want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for trusting the Pan-African television. And do remember that news is always on the move. So do have a lovely moment in the company of our transmissions. Bye-bye, and see you in the nearest future.